Okay, so welcome. My name is Iris. I'm a research analyst at Colorectal Cancer Canada, and today I have the wonderful opportunity to interview Jason. Today we'll be talking about his firsthand experience with cancer clinical trials in Canada. So the goal of this interview is to help others better understand cancer clinical trials and how to access them if they so choose. We would like to help break down some of the common myths out there about clinical trials and help patients get the right information when they need it. So this interview will not necessarily reflect everyone's experience. So if you'd like to provide us with your firsthand experience with clinical trials, feel free to contact us. We would absolutely love to hear from you. This information presented in the interview is meant for informational and educational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So let's get right into it. So Jason, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm 37 years old. I live kind of in a little rural town about 50 kilometers south of Ottawa in Ontario. I'm married, have 2 dogs at home. We just adopted a little 1-year-old girl a few weeks ago. And yeah, I guess in regards to cancer, I was diagnosed with stage 3B colon cancer last November. And over the last year, I had a successful surgery and then had 6 months of treatments. And I just kind of finished up with all of that.
All right. And what led you to find out that you had colorectal cancer?
It was completely luck of the draw, to be honest with you. I have like a history of anxiety and some mental health stuff. So I had like a lot of like GI symptoms, I guess you could say. But it was kind of not passed off, but it was assumed that it was just from that. But then I went to the doctor to do a med adjustment, and I was saying like, oh, things are kind of like some blood in the stool is increasing a little bit. And, that's really the only symptom I had, to be honest, at that time. So they did a physical exam and they didn't really find anything. So she had actually provided me with the opportunity to go do a colonoscopy, like just to, to be honest, like cancer wasn't even on the radar. We've just been working together for a long time, and she knows the way my mind works. And I think she did it more for like peace of mind for me. So she'd put that through. But she also told me, because I was diagnosed during COVID, that there was kind of delays for that type of testing, especially when it wasn't urgent. So she told me if my symptoms have increased or, I was just getting more and more worried, just present at the ER. And typically like those types of tests will happen a little bit quicker. So I was scheduled to do my colonoscopy about 2 months after that. But about 2 or 3 weeks after that, after my doctor's appointment, I started to get a little bit of like discomfort and pain kind of in my lower abdomen. So it kind of didn't go away after a few days. So my wife and I kind of chatted. I'm like, you know what, whatever, like I'm just going to go to the hospital and, get checked out. The ER doctor that I saw was pretty sold. It was like diverticulitis or like inflammation of the bowel or whatever. Yeah. But I was also very fortunate that he was pretty aggressive. Like he wasn't going to kind of let me go until he knew for sure. So before giving me any prescriptions or anything, he wanted to do a CT just to make sure. So that was a CT that actually found the mass in my colon. So luckily, he didn't just give me antibiotics and kind of sent me on my way. He kind of pushed a little bit further. And given that it was stage 3 and it already kind of went to some lymph nodes regionally, if I didn't go and he didn't do that CT, and it would have gone on for another few months or year or whatever until I decided to get checked, like who knows what it would have been. Yeah. So I'm, the way everything played out was pretty fortunate.
That's amazing. And so what were the first treatments that were offered to you afterwards?
Well, once I got obviously I got like biopsies and all of that stuff, and I got referred to the Ottawa hospital for their colorectal group. And because of like, I guess, the pathology and where it was and kind of, I guess, what they saw, they were going to do curative surgery first. And then depending on if lymph nodes or whatever they found during that, then they would kind of progress to oncology after. So I did have a successful lower anterior resection. They were able to kind of hook all the plumbing back up, so no like ostomies, early ostomies, or any of that stuff. They got clean margins and everything was great. So they got everything out. But there were lymph nodes that came back positive. So they referred me over to the Ottawa Cancer Center to speak with an oncologist. And they basically gave me three options. I was able to like watch and wait basically because they did get all the lymph nodes and the tumor out. So there was no other spread anywhere. So I did have the option of not doing anything beyond that point. Yeah. And that was about a 50-50 kind of chance. But he also obviously offered chemo, and my options for that, I could have done the K-Pox regimen or the FOLFOX regimen, but obviously when the FOLFOX, like that would have been part of the trial. So I either was able to choose K-Pox and not do the trial, or decide to do the trial and either get the FOLFOX or FOLFIRI-FOX, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. And overall, how were you coping physically, emotionally, mentally with cancer and with that treatment?
It's to be honest with you, it's a little bit tougher now being done and trying to like get back to kind of my new normal and get back to not having doctor's appointments and seeing people all the time and
totally,
and obviously the side effects the side effects from chemo are still definitely pretty relevant. I'm only 2 months out, so I'm definitely still kind of like in that coasting phase from the oxaliplatin and dealing with a bunch of fatigue and neuropathy and all that. But at the same time, I know I'm fortunate. They struggled mentally more post everything, to be honest with you, than during everything.
All right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the CO28 clinical trial. So can you talk a little bit about what this clinical trial was looking at? What was it evaluating?
Yeah, so they were basically evaluating, again, without the scientific info behind it, I guess. From my knowledge, is they're trying to compare, they were trying to compare FOLFOX versus FOLFIRI.
Right.
So you got randomized basically, and they're just trying to see if adding that extra drug in, increased effectiveness. Right. So you're basically randomized into one of the two, or you got the standard of care FOLFOX or the trial drug.
Okay, and that was specific to your stage of cancer? So, or could you be in other?
Specifically, to my understanding, to be honest, when it was all presented and everything, all I cared about was let's take care of it. So
yeah, for sure, exactly.
So I mean, obviously, I'm not sure if it was applicable to any other stages or whatnot, but obviously, my particular situation kind of fit the trial.
Okay, and how did you find out about the trial? Was it something that your doctor brought up to you, or did you do your own research?
No, my doctor or my oncologist. So he kind of told me about it, when he presented me with my options.
Yeah.
He offered that to me as one of my treatment options. So he kind of told me about it right away. And the trial coordinator at the Ottawa Hospital came down and talked to me about it as well and explained a little bit more. And I went home and thought about it for a couple days, but he actually brought it up to me.
Okay. And in the end, what made you decide to participate in the trial?
Well, I almost didn't participate in it, to be honest with you, because if I did the trial, I had to go into Ottawa because I had to get my infusions done at the general campus.
Right.
Where if I just did K-Pox, I was able to do it at a smaller infusion center closer to home.
Right.
So I almost decided not to do that. not to do the trial, but given kind of just with like, I don't know, a pretty nervous person about all this kind of stuff. So I kind of like the idea of being able to see like if I did the trial, I got to see my oncologist every 2 weeks. I got to see him in person. I got to talk to him on the phone. I had these like all these other people that I could talk to as part of the trial. I heard, like I talked to some other people that were just on like a normal like K-pox regime and saw their oncologist like twice in like 6 months, and it was on the phone. Right. So I kind of like the idea of being like followed really, really closely and kind of having people to reach out to. So that's kind of what pushed me towards giving it a shot.
Yeah, and just having that closeness with that
and helping with like and like helping obviously with research, like especially with like colorectal cancer, like there's so much like up in the air right now, but why like the young onset stuff and like why it's happening. And I have no family history at all, so I was kind of interested about how this kind of happens too. So I don't know, anything that could help someone else along the way. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones, so kind of want to pay it forward, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's interesting what you said about, you weren't sure you were going to get involved because it's just kind of inconvenient, if you don't live in a big city center. And I think that's a really big issue today with clinical trials in Canada. So this accessibility issue for sure. And so what was it like as you were becoming a participant? Did you have to go through, a whole bunch of other, tests, and, what was that sort of process of becoming an actually enrolled in the clinical trial?
To be honest, it was a pretty easy process, like because it was so close to after my surgery.
Right. Okay.
They already had all the tests and images and everything that they needed.
Yeah.
Basically, like I just had to sign a piece of paper and get randomized, really. And to be honest, like at the beginning, I was really hoping for the trial drug because they're trying to prove there was like a 2 to 3% more effectiveness. But at the end of the day, I did not get randomized. I got randomized to FOLFOX. But I'm kind of happy I did because they obviously can't tell you at the time. But afterwards, I learned that like some of the side effects for this new stuff were pretty significantly more than FOLFOX, and like a 1 or 2% more effectiveness. Like it might not have been worth that extra, all those extra side effects and risk, like 1 or 2% chance kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. One of the big misconceptions that we hear a lot about, out there about clinical trials is that they're this, a last resort treatment, right? What do you have to say about that?
Well, it wasn't for me. To be honest, like it was one of the options in the trial was a regimen for colon cancer. So it's not like I was like giving up anything or like risking anything. Like it was very much just an option to, help. And if you did get randomized, like who knows, maybe it is more effective. But at the end of the day, like I didn't really see it as a last, I didn't see it as a last chance. First of all, because I wasn't my particular thought as a chance of like, maybe I'll get even better than the regular stuff, right? So like I saw it kind of more as a positive as opposed to like a last resort.
Yeah, so it was presented to you pretty much as like another treatment option.
Well, yeah, because if like my oncologist basically said if that treatment option wasn't, if that trial wasn't around, like if that wasn't in existence right now, it would literally be K-pox or FOLFOX anyway.
Right.
So it's not like, it was FOLFOX or the other one. So really, like there was this particular case, there wouldn't have been a difference. Okay.
And so apart from the challenge of being, inconvenient, you had to go into Ottawa and sort of be further away from home. What were some of the other challenges that you experienced participating in the trial?
To be honest, there were really none. Like it was awesome. Like I'm really the trial coordinator was amazing. Like she was kind of my point of contact for everything. Like I was able to email her like anything. Like, it's like I wanted a referral to like psychosocial department, or if I wanted physio, or if I wanted whatever, like I literally just emailed her and she got my oncologist to do it like within like 5 or 10 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
It was just, it was really good. Like it was awesome. I really have no complaints. I had a really, really good experience. And I just, was supported pretty well through the whole thing by her.
Awesome. And were there any costs associated with the trial that you had to pay out of pocket?
No, there weren't at all.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, except for like parking and like gas to like.
Right. Okay. So transportation.
Like, Ottawa Cancer Center or whatever.
Right.
But beyond that, no.
Okay. And what would you suggest to others who may be considering participating in a clinical trial? What kind of, tips or, general suggestions would you offer?
I mean, I could only speak for obviously my personal experience. I know not everybody is the same,
Right.
but I would definitely say, I had an extremely positive and successful experience. And I think if I didn't do the last year would have been very different. Not saying like outcome wise, but I think like the support and how it all went would have been very, very different. Like, I don't know, it was strange. Like when I talk to people about it, I almost feel like being on the trial, you're like one of the special patients. Yeah. Like they have to like give you that, like they just go above and beyond, and they really kind of like, because they need you, right? Like they need you to be part of their research, right? So I don't know, the way I experienced anyways, like I felt I felt my oncologist and the staff were like grateful that I volunteered to do it. And I was kind of like, I got treated extremely well by them. So I felt like I helped them, they helped me. Like it was kind of a pretty good rapport. So I would tell people to definitely like consider it. For me anyway, scary, like this is your last shot or whatever thing. I know some people, unfortunately, when it comes down to different clinical trials, that is the circumstance. But I would tell people definitely do your homework, ask questions. Don't get pressured into anything. Like the biggest thing that I was fortunate as well that my oncologist wasn't pushy at all. Like he gave me all the info, and I did go home for a couple days and thought about it and talked it over. Yes, just make sure you do your homework, but definitely consider it, because there are they don't tell you, but there are a lot of perks. Like you definitely have a lot of ins, and like I had referrals to places that, especially during COVID, for example, like I got to go in and physically see my oncologist every 2 weeks. Wow. Like face to face for 6 months, right? Whereas when you're not in a trial, you maybe see, on a 6 months, you might see them at the beginning, maybe if you're lucky in the middle. Yeah. Right. So like I was able to build a really close rapport with my oncologist, which, helped a lot. Sure. And again, every doctor is different. Every trial coordinator is different. I just got very, very lucky. But I would definitely say, give it a chance. Like definitely consider it, because there are a lot of good things that could come out of it if things kind of like fall into place. Amazing.
Great. And is there anything else you would like to add about your experience, about, anything?
Oh, I could talk for a long time about my experience. But I guess, no, all in all, I am very grateful. Like I am definitely one of the lucky ones to be where I am right now. And my whole experience went very, very smoothly and positive. And I got I actually got a lot of really neat opportunities to like advocate for young folks and be part of stuff. And I just think I'd love to see where all of this goes, because, obviously something's happening with colon cancer in young folks, and nobody seems to understand why, especially when there's no hereditary stuff going on. So I just think it's important for, us that have gone through this, that we need to kind of step up and advocate that, there's got to be some answers at some point, because, stuff's just not adding up. It doesn't make sense.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience, which is just so incredibly valuable and really brings to the forefront this human side of cancer and clinical trials. So I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jason.
No problem. Thank you.